everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to get started here with the Advance Parole Voices series. My name is Citlali Ortiz, and here with us we have Mayra Garibo, our featured guest. Advance Parole Voices is going to be a series of videos where an individual is going to come on, a DACA recipient, and share their experiences with advance parole and how that has impacted their lives. So today, like I said, we have Mayra. Mayra, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Mayra Garibo. I'm a DACA recipient. I recently graduated from the University of Dominguez Hills with a bachelor's degree in business administration, and now I work here for the California Mexico Study Center with the applications for Advance Parole.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your experience with advance parole, how you got involved with the Calmexcenter, and all of that?
Yes, so I applied for Advanced Parole in 2017 for the first time. It was for educational purposes. We were supposed to travel from December 25th to January 15, I believe, and that was the first time that I actually had to deal with Advanced Parole. And I applied other times, and that's how I became more involved with the campaign.
Thank you. So I know that we're going to share a little bit more about your story and how advance parole really got, kind of how it impacted your life, how it affected it. So with your application, right, when you applied for advance parole, it was denied. And what was the time frame of your travel dates?
So as I mentioned, it was from December 25th to January 15th, around that time frame. It was denied due to the DACA being rescinded, and our money was returned, and that was our applications were basically administratively closed.
Can you talk a little bit about what happened after your application was closed and you couldn't go? You weren't able to go to Mexico. What happened in the month of January?
So unfortunately, in the month of January, I actually lost my dad to an accident. It was January 11th, and that was the second time that I applied for advanced parole. And I actually went to the district office, and that was the second time my application was denied.
What did that mean to you? You know, having this feeling of, first of all, processing that your father had passed away, and secondly, knowing that you couldn't go see him, or you possibly couldn't, right? Because you were still in that process of applying for advance parole.
It was really difficult for me because the same day that my dad passed away, when I got the news, I made the decision to apply for advance parole. So I had called my family members to gather all the documents so I could apply for this permit. And when I went to the district office, I truly believed that my application was going to be granted. And they told me that they were only granting this permit for humanitarian reasons, and I obviously I asked, like, I thought this was my humanitarian reason, and they still didn't even bother to take a look at my application. It was really hard.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more? I know that this might be a difficult question, but what was that phone call like when, you know, you were told that your father had passed away, and what happened?
My aunt actually called me at work, and she told me if I had heard the news, if my mom had told me something about what was going on. I told her that my mom hadn't mentioned anything, if she could tell me. She didn't want to, but I insisted, and that's when she told me that my dad had passed away. I really thought it was actually my grandpa because he has cancer, so I never thought it had anything with my dad. I broke down, and it was so hard for me to think that this was really happening. I think I was trying to wrap my head around losing my dad because I was supposed to go to that trip and I would have had the opportunity to see him, and now I was faced with having to want to go and be there with him, and I didn't know how to react.
Being unable to. If you would have gone on that trip for the Calmexcenter, the one that was planned with the Calmexcenter, you would have seen your father for the last time, right?
Yes, I would have had the opportunity to say goodbye to him and see him after 17 years, and unfortunately I wasn't able to.
Thank you. So you kind of already spoke a little bit about how the suspension of advance parole affected your life. And I know that people might have a little bit more questions on that. And I just want to mention that we will be having a Q&A right after we finish interviewing Mayra. you will be able, we're going to have about 5 minutes so we can answer some questions if you all have questions for her or about Advance Parole. I just wanted to let you know that we will be having that afterwards. So currently, what is the status of your Advance Parole application?
So after applying, applying for the third time, my application is still pending. It's still in the system. It has been in the system for more than a year now. And I'm still waiting to see what this campaign, how it's going to impact the application process and seeing how it's going to go. But my application is still pending in the system.
Well, okay. What does that mean to you? You know, that it's pending and you lost your father about a year ago already.
It's really difficult for me because, as I mentioned, my grandpa he has cancer and my grandma's very ill. And at any moment, I can receive another call from my family members giving me the bad news, and now I'm having to deal with the entire application process, not being sure, of course, if my application is going to be approved. And it's very difficult for me to think that this can happen again. And obviously not just for myself, but for others to think that we have a sick family member abroad and we're not able to be there. It's really scary that in a moment of need, we can't travel abroad to be there with our loved ones.
Yeah, of course. So currently, you know, you got involved with the Calmexcenter because of this opportunity to be able to travel back to Mexico. And can you share with us today, what is your role here at the Calmexcenter? Can you talk a little bit about the Advanced Parole Assistance Program and how you are leading this?
So my role here, I'm an administrative assistant. I help with the application process for advanced parole. It's an experience of kind of seeing a lot of DACA recipients' stories of when they have a family member and they have to go abroad. It's really difficult to kind of read their stories and see the true need that there is for this permit, that they have to be there with their family members. Like, I get to see the doctor's letters from what the illness that a grandparent must have, or a mother or a dad, and it's hard to think that it's more than that, right? It's more than the doctor's letter. This is a human being. This is their family member that they truly want to go see, and then they believe that they have to and they want to be there, and it's hard. And I think what their stories are kind of leads me to believe that I know there's a need here and that it's worth fighting for.
Yeah, of course. So knowing that you had the same experience as somebody who now you are helping apply for Advance Parole, I could imagine how difficult it can be to sit down with somebody and have that conversation about their story when you can relate to it so much. So knowing that you're the one that listens to these cases, you're the one that has been following up with the people, how do you feel when somebody says that Advance Parole is just a loophole for a DACA recipient to gain residency or legalization in a faster way?
I truly think that sometimes some people aren't really informed of what advanced parole is. This is a permit that helps you travel abroad for humanitarian purposes, employment, or educational. And once you have advanced parole granted, now you have a legal entry. And when you get married, this helps you. So I think that it should be a benefit, and I don't see what the problem is. I don't understand why we can't take advantage of something like that if it's helping us. I truly believe that people who are applying for advanced parole in the first place, those are people who are good citizens. If for advanced parole, you have to have a clean record. Of course, we don't want to put you in danger where you can not get paroled back into the country. Yeah. So people who are applying for advanced parole, they have no DUIs or pending legal cases. So these are individuals who are good citizens, and I believe that they should be able to benefit for something like
and
this.
Also taking, to matter that it is a humanitarian case, that all the people that we've listened to, the stories that have come across our organization have been stories of, the need and the urgency of, they don't even think about what you can do with a permit. It's more of like, I have this going on and I have to go, right?
Yes, actually the CMSC has taken more than 50 individuals, obviously 150 almost in total, and a lot of them were women, and there were a few people who got to take advantage of this, of the legal entry, but a lot of people aren't. They're trying to visit abroad to reconnect with their family, and in our case, it's the humanitarian need, as you mentioned. So when we're thinking about this process, we're not thinking about what the benefit is going to be, but rather than being there with our loved ones.
Yeah, of course. So I think you kind of already spoke a little bit about this, but knowing that this affected you personally and you have the experience with the advance parole, can you tell us what your vision for this campaign is, or how you see advance parole? Listening to all the stories, what is your vision?
I truly believe that what we're advocating for is worth fighting for. Our trip to Washington, D.C. this November, I feel like it's going to have a big impact in us sending all these applications. Since our deadline was September 23rd, a lot of people are still actually submitting their applications. And I believe that there's going to be an impact of all these individuals, their stories, because we even included photos of the family members.
Yeah.
We wanted to really show that it's more than just a paper where we're just asking. Like, these are actual human beings, like going through difficult things, wanting to be there for their loved ones, and feeling like now they can't because this permit isn't there. So I believe that this campaign is doing something that a lot of people aren't doing. We're advocating for a permit that was already there in place and that is worth fighting for, because we don't want other people to be hurting and having like still dealing with their pain because they're not able to be abroad with their loved ones.
Yeah, of course. So what motivates you to do this work? I know that it's a personal thing, right? But what exactly has kept you going day by day doing this work?
The first time where I went to the district office and I was denied advance parole, I exited the building and I was actually with Shayla Salinas. She was part of one of the CMSC workers at the time, and I felt that them denying my advance parole, me being with my dad, was no longer my choice. It was someone else's decision for me to be there, not to be able to be there actually. And it was really painful. It felt frustrating, and I kind of felt hopeless. And to think that other people, other DACA recipients can be in that same situation, that I don't want that to happen anymore. And I think that's my biggest reason why I continue to do this, to help everyone who needs it, because I don't want them to go through the same thing and through the same pain and difficulty that I went through.
Yeah, of course. So, what can you tell people that are watching this video? People that want to apply, or somebody that has a family member abroad that they need to see. What can you tell somebody?
I would say apply. I know that there's a fear with this administration that you might be able to get stuck abroad, or that they may not parole you in. But the way that we do things, we want to make sure that whoever's applying obviously has a good record. And I would suggest trying, because we really want to show that there is a need for this. That although this permit isn't in place, there's still a huge need. That there's so many people afraid to apply just because obviously the permit isn't in place, but we have to bring this back. And I would suggest applying, and obviously send us an email, give us a call, and we can help you through that process.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So how can somebody that might not want to apply for advance parole, doesn't have the need, but still wants to get involved with our campaign, still wants to learn more about it, learn how they can support it, what would you tell somebody?
I would say go ahead and donate to our campaign. Unfortunately, I had to deal with a few cases where people don't have the money to apply. I had one applicant that his mom is actually abroad and she's very sick. And we don't have the funds to provide for his application. He doesn't have the funds. He's actually here all by himself. He doesn't have any type of family members. He was actually homeless, and now thankfully he's working, but he works full time and goes to school. And it's stories like that we advocate for them to have the funding to be able to apply for advance parole. But it is you guys' help, and even sharing this video, obviously, or trying to get involved. But donating, I feel like it does a big difference, because you're able to help people like this applicant and many others who need the help.
Yeah. So, lastly, thank you so much for, answering the questions, sharing your story, and really putting yourself out there on the spot for all these people to be part of it. We're going to be opening up the Q&A portion. So if you all have any questions that you want to tell us, please go ahead and drop the questions. We do want to mention that Mayra's story is, there's a documentary about her story, and we do want to encourage all of you to watch it. The link is actually going to be posted in the comment section of this Facebook Live. And we are going to, we invite you to watch them.
On September 5, 2017, President Trump terminated the DACA program, disrupting the lives of nearly 800,000 hardworking DACA recipients. On that same day, the administration decided to no longer allow DACA recipients to travel abroad under the authority of advance parole. In the past, DACA recipients have been allowed to take short trips out of the country for humanitarian, educational, or employment purposes. This is no longer the case, and the consequences have been devastating. In January of this year, the father of my constituent, Mayra, a college student and dreamer, died in Mexico. She immediately gathered the necessary paperwork, including her father's death certificate, and applied for advance parole. Her request was denied, and then denied again. Mayra was unable to pay her last respects to her beloved father due to the unconscionable decisions made by this irresponsible and heartless administration.
My name is Mayra Garibo. I was born in Mazatlan, Sinaloa.
So yeah, thank you so much. As you see, you just watched a little part of the documentary. If you want to watch the whole thing, please go ahead and check out the link. We do want to invite you all to donate to our campaign. There is a button you can click on and you can just donate to us. If you can't donate, please share the video. Please share it with your contacts, with your network. We really appreciate it, and we want to continue doing this work and continue expanding our campaign so that we're able to restore advance parole. Lastly, we just want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Tu Voz Foundation, and thank you to Carlos for making this video possible. So yeah, thank you so much, Mayra, for being here with us today. And with this, we conclude our Facebook Live. Please tune in for the next week's video.